All right, today we're going to be looking at how to annotate and how to measure. And so we are going to be modeling that together. So the first thing I want to do is remind ourselves of the annotation expectations. So you have this in your notebook, but a few things that are really common techniques that you're going to see in other classes that you can use in pretty much any text that you read is number one, numbering the paragraphs. So we're looking to first number the paragraphs. Number two, we're going to circle key terms. So key terms are words that are part of the central focus of the article, words you don't understand, bold words, or any other words that are related to the current unit of study. We're going to underline or highlight key concepts. And key concepts are central ideas from the text, a bolded phrase, or important definitions. And then lastly, number four, we're summarizing each paragraph in the margins. So write at least a one-sentence summary for the paragraph that can be used to refresh your memory about the topic in an essay, in a summary, or as supporting evidence. All right, so these are kind of like the base annotation expectations that we're going to be working with. You can always do more. There's always more that you can add. There's more that you can interact with the text, but this is kind of our base that we're going to work from. Okay, so our how to measure article. Now we know that we're in a science class, and so measuring is really important, and so we're just going to model some annotation strategies with this article. So how to measure is the title. So the first thing I'm going to do is number the paragraph. So along the left hand side, I'm just going to number all the way down. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is actually read the entire first paragraph first before I highlight anything, because I want to know if it's going to be important or not. Okay, so I have my highlighter ready, but I'm going to read the entire first paragraph first. So here we go. How much do you weigh? What is your height? How many tiles will cover your kitchen floor? How much milk should be added to a cake mix? What is the temperature outside? All of these questions are answered by measurements. Measuring is an important part of daily life. People use measurements all the time for shopping, cooking, construction, and deciding how warm to dress. Measuring also is an important part of science. Okay, so if we're thinking about our annotation style, where we want to focus in on the key concepts that relate to the class, that relate to the title of the article, that we think will be important, all of these beginning questions, is that something that's really highlighter worthy? No. Okay, now it has a purpose in writing, right? It's there to get your attention. It's there to make the topic relatable. You all have had someone ask you how tall you are, or you will think about how warm to dress for outside and how hot it is. Those are all relating to measurements, and it's super relatable to your life, but it's not really highlighter worthy, okay? I would say maybe the first sentence we could highlight, because it's directly about measuring and it's connects to our life, is this sentence right here. This measuring is an important part of daily life. I'm going to highlight that because that's kind of like the first thing in this paragraph that is the most important, you could say. And it kind of summarizes essentially all of those questions before it. All right, so after that then, people use measurements all the time for shopping, cooking, construction, and deciding how warm to dress. Aren't all of these things examples of daily life? So I'm just going to write the word examples and then draw arrows up to that sentence, because that's telling me that those are all examples of that sentence. Okay, and now let's look at this last sentence. Measuring also is an important part of science. Well, are you in a science class? So is measuring going to be important? So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this last sentence also. And here's what I want you to do. Okay, now I want you to turn to a neighbor, and based on what we highlighted and what we talked about, if you had to write a one-sentence summary about this paragraph, what would you say? Turn to a neighbor and chat. All right. So based on what we highlighted, if you were going to turn this into a one sentence summary, what would you say? Oh, yeah, can we just smash together the two sentences? So measuring is an important part of daily life and science. There it is. Okay, let's look at the second paragraph. I'm going to read the second paragraph all the way through, and then we're going to decide what's highlighter worthy, okay? A measurement has two parts, a number and a unit. The number is determined by the markings on the measurement instrument. It is read by reading all of the markings possible plus estimating another digit. For example, if a ruler shows the length of this crayon to be at least 7.0 centimeters, but not quite to the next marker, 7.1, then that last digit is estimated. Here it is known to be 7.0 centimeters and has an estimation of an additional 0.05 centimeters. Therefore, the measurement number is 7.05. A unit is a standard amount used to measure something. In this case, it is centimeters, with the overall measurement being 7.05 centimeters. Below are the most common measurements. Okay, there's a lot more like meat to this, right? A lot more about measuring. This very first sentence, a measurement has two parts, a number and a unit. Does that sound super important? Yeah, isn't that kind of the whole point of the article? It's talking about measurements? So I'm going to highlight this whole sentence. A measurement has two parts, a number and a unit. There's also some key vocabulary terms in here. For example, the actual word measurement. And then because we read the rest of the paragraph, don't we also know that number and unit are important? Because they define number and unit. Okay? So we've got a key concept with some key vocabulary, and we know they're important because we read the whole paragraph before we started highlighting. All right, the next sentence. The number is determined by the markings on the measurement instrument. Isn't that telling us the what? The what of the number? So I'm going to highlight this sentence. The number is determined by the markings on the measurement instrument. That's kind of the what of the number. And the next sentence is the how. It's how we get it. So it is read by reading all the markings possible plus estimating another digit. So that's the what and the how of the number. Okay, but now if I'm looking at this example, what is this example about? Isn't it about this picture? This crayon and this ruler? So instead of trying to highlight this whole thing, I'm just going to say all of this has to do with this picture. So for example, if a ruler shows the length of this crayon to be at least 7 centimeters, but not quite to the next marker, 7.1, and I know that your picture might be a little hard to see, but this line right here, this crayon line is past the 7, but not quite to the 7.1, then that last digit is estimated. Okay, so we know it's 7.0. We know it's 7.0. And it has an estimation of another 0.5. And we see that right there. So I'm just kind of giving myself visual clues. So if I'm looking back on this, I know what that section is about. Therefore, the measurement number is 7.05. So this section is about this picture. We have given ourselves clues about that. So let's keep going. A unit is a standard amount used to measure something. Is that highlighter worthy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Didn't we circle the word unit? And isn't this like a definition of a unit? So a unit is a standard amount used to measure something. In this case, it is centimeters, and we know it's centimeters because our ruler says centimeters. And the overall measurement is 7.05 centimeters. So this right here comes from this. So I'm also going to tell myself that that's where that comes from. So if I'm looking back on this, I can follow my arrows, I can follow my visual clues to tell me what this is about, okay? Now let's think of a one sentence summary. So if you had to summarize this whole paragraph in one sentence, turn to your neighbor in chat, what would you write? All right, so let's focus back and let's think. We circled measurement, number, and unit. So in my sentence, I should probably talk about measurements, numbers, and units, right? And if I'm really getting down to like, what is measurement? How do we measure? I want my sentence to reflect that. So what if I said something like, every measurement, okay, so every measurement has a number read by markings and a standard unit. Every measurement has a number read by markings and a standard unit. Now we could have added more. We could have made that a richer sentence. We could have said something like every measurement has a number read by the markings on a measurement instrument and a standard amount used called a unit. So we could have made that a richer sentence, but we're just kind of giving a quick summary, okay? Now, before we move forward, I want you to look at what we've written so far. If I had asked you to write a summary of this whole article, or I asked you to use textual evidence, you've already done part of that work. So listen to this, all right? Measuring is an important part of science and daily life. Every measurement has a number read by markings and a standard unit. Does that sound like the start of a really condensed summary, straight to the point? Does that sound like textual evidence you could have used? Exactly. So I know that we're just talking about measurement here, but this kind of strategy, this annotation approach, can be used in any class with any text, informational or not, okay? So that's how I'm looking for annotations in here. And really, it's your evidence that you're reading the text. It's your evidence that you are internalizing what it says.